Hello everyone. This is Ari Moshe Wolf of Heart and Soul Centered Astrology. In this video, I'd like to share some insights on the upcoming solar eclipse, the new moon happening in Virgo just before the upcoming equinox. This is a part of the greater, larger eclipse cycle in the Virgo-Pisces axis of September. It's a very powerful eclipse. There are some unique dynamics coinciding that just makes this a very unique experience. So I'm going to highlight this. The first thing to note is that this new moon at 29 degrees Virgo is in the exact midpoint opposition to the current Saturn-Neptune retrograde. Neptune will be retrograde in Aries, 0 degrees, and Saturn in Pisces at 28 degrees. So this 29 Virgo is almost exactly right in between these two planets in the oppositional point. So it's really through the nature of the opposition, or the archetype of the opposition, polarization and contrast and stress to bring more awareness, right? Opposition by its very nature induces greater self-awareness and kind of brings us into the very places that need further integration and clarity in our lives. Let's focus on the sun in particular, because when the sun is opposite an outer planet, that always corresponds to the midpoint of that planet's retrograde cycle. Right? So the sun opposite Saturn and Neptune means that this is the midpoint, the height, the apex, the culmination, the center of Saturn and Neptune in their retrograde cycle. So it really essentializes, highlights, and brings out through contrast, through stress, the very essence of this retrograde journey. Retrograde in general being this reworking, reliving, reviewing, kind of getting into it from underneath and cultivating much more awareness. There's a deep undoing and unraveling process happening right now. Relative to Saturn-Neptune, this is all about the structures in our lives that we've given meaning to. In so many ways, the Saturn-Neptune is preparing us for a new cycle, a crystallization of direction and purpose that is beyond what we can currently understand right now, because we're unraveling all of our judgments, all of our shoulds, all of our control, our shame, our holding on to the past. I should be, you should be, it should be, should. The ways in which we put our judgments and control in front of the truth, in front of what we are, in front of love, in front of what is actually and truly meaningful. So in a larger sense, if we really embrace it, allow this to be so for us, there is a relaxing, a gentling, a dissolving, a softening of our stance, of our judgments, which is teaching us to be available for the teaching, for the way in which life wants to guide us to live and be and act as the love that we are, to carry the purpose that we're all here to live and express. So this sun opposition really essentializes and highlights that, but through the energy of opposition. So this eclipse on the South Node in Virgo is bringing up all of the messes, all of the shit we don't got figured out. So it can be very easy on the one hand, leading up to this eclipse, especially with the sun and Mercury moving right now as I speak to exact on the South Node, to feel strongly where things are quite unresolved. And you can look in your own chart too, where's Mercury, where's Neptune? In many ways, this highlights for each one of us the dichotomy between surrender and trust and, but this is so hard, it's so messy, and where we feel really entangled in crisis and difficulties that we don't know how to fix or get out of. And similar to what I shared in a couple of videos ago, I think the teaching of this very strong Virgo opposition to these Pisces planets speaks to, as we walk the curriculum, as we walk this path, we're faced with dilemmas and challenges where it's just hard. So like in the ceremony of a particular intentional container, like if you ever sat in a ceremony, or if you ever designated a space where you're praying and you're meeting the content, in these intentional structures, you go to church, you sit in a medicine ceremony, you have a healing session with someone, right? In these containers, everything that arises, it's easier to meet it with trust and surrender. Okay, this is coming up, I give it over to learn, to heal, to dissolve, to see more of the truth, to bring it more into clarity. The greater teaching is that life is a ceremony. So we get out of these peak spiritual experiences where it's easy to remember and we're inspired, and we get into, and that's like the spirituality of like Saturn, Neptune, and Pisces, kind of like we can transcend the density and the weight of physical time and space and all the problems and burdens and responsibilities of life, and just access something a lot lighter and more true and universal. Then we get into the knit and grit of day-to-day life, our chores, the things that are in our life, all of the routines and practices and elements of our life that we're working on, that we're still improving, that are still yet unresolved. Virgo can always feel like this never-ending, I'm never gonna get there. Virgo, I'm imperfect, life is imperfect, and Virgo can do this, like, I'm imperfect, there's always something wrong with me, and that's why my life is messed up, or there's something wrong with you or everything else, and that's why my life is messed up. So I'm going to be critical of everything in my life because it's a reflection of where I'm just always feeling like I'm not where I should be. So we can be really present to that stress, and the teaching is those very places are the exact places where we're learning, albeit we haven't quite learned it yet, but we're learning that this too is a holy, sacred space. This is a ceremony as well. That's a greater teaching, that this whole life is a sacred container for our remembering. And it's where it's gnarled up and stressful and difficult, and it's like, I don't know how to find peace here. I don't know how to find clarity or wellness here. It's like being in that ceremony container, and we're just lost in our thoughts and our stress. The Virgo teaching is start over again, as messy as it is, as much as we may have failed in learning the lessons. Let's remember that if we weren't failing in it, so to speak, we wouldn't be experiencing this. Like, we're here to learn this mastery. That's like the preciousness of this human incarnation. We're here to develop this mastery, to use this experience to embody and claim and integrate the light that we are. We have a lot of time, Saturn, a lot of compassion and infinite presence and patience for this learning journey. That's why we're here. A good teacher will not shame the student, and a good learner will not shame themselves for failing to learn. So that Virgo humility is just starting up again. So that's what I essentialize here in looking at this Virgo solar new moon eclipse opposite Saturn-Neptune. There's a strong sense of where the curriculum might feel yet unresolved and stressful, and where this is simply a greater opportunity to meet where exactly in our lives we're learning to restore trust, availability, and humility to simply continue on with the work. So that's my teaching for today. A couple announcements. One, this weekend I'm sharing a free talk with some of my evolutionary astrology colleagues on the life wisdom teachings of my teacher, Jeffrey Wolf Green. We're going to be honoring this lineage that he brought forward and the teachings and the stories that we've all received from learning from him for many years. So this is going to be a really beautiful class. We've never done something like this. So I hope you will join. It's free. You can sign up in the description below. And I have a community membership. I've decided to make the first month to this membership free so that people are encouraged to check it out. If it's not for you, you can cancel. Beyond that, it's $45 a month. Check it out in the description below, as well as all of my other offerings. Thank you so much for watching.